Yo, what's up guys? You got PokeaimMD here with another competitive Pokemon Sun and Moon Moveset video guide, how to use on Incineroar, the fire type starter Pokemon that we got in Pokemon Sun and Moon. Now I want to mention one thing before we talk about these sets. Intimidate is not currently released on Incineroar, so all these sets are going to have Blaze. However, when Intimidate is released, put it on the set. There are very few times that Blaze is actually better than Intimidate, especially on a mon like this. So I encourage you to change the sets to Intimidate, all the abilities to Intimidate, once that is released. But Incineroar is Fire and Dark, which is actually very solid typing because it allows it to have a resistance to some key offensive types such as Ghost and Dark, while also resisting Steel, Fire, Grass, and Ice, as well as giving it immunity to Psychic type. It is weak to 4 different types though: Fighting, Ground, Rock, and Water. However, Incineroar does have really nice attack at base 115 and pretty decent defenses at base 90, as well as base 95 HP. Unfortunately, its speed is pretty lackluster at base 60. I have no idea why when Torracat evolved, it decided, yeah, I'm just going to lose all this speed when I get up on my my 2 legs. I have no idea why, but Incineroar is a really cool Pokemon though. Dark and Fire is very solid offensively, especially when you couple that with ground coverage, which allows it to deal with Pokemon such as Tyranitar that resist both Fire and Dark. So the first set we're going to be talking about is the Choice Band set. This takes advantage of its base 115 attack, which is a pretty decent, pretty high attack stat, I would say. But the Choice Band set runs Flare Blitz, Darkest Lariat, Earthquake, and U-Turn. Earthquake allows you to hit Toxapex for super effective damage for a 2-hit KO, Knockout Heatran, 2-hit KO a Tyranitar, as well as being able to damage Magnezone and Marowak in the same turn. Though Darkest Lariat obviously picks off Marowak, and Darkest Lariat is going to hurt Magnezone, but this just allows you to hit those Pokemon. You can also run Cross Chop, which will give you the KO on Tyranitar always. However, I find that Earthquake is better most of the time on Incineroar. And then U-Turn is actually really solid on this Pokemon, especially when it gets Intimidate, because it just threatens mons, lowers their attack, and just U-turns on out of there. But on a Choice Band user like Incineroar, having U-turn is really solid because it allows it to get on out of there and gain momentum. If your opponent switches out and you go for U-turn, you get on out of there, you get to bring in something that counters or checks whatever they brought in, and you can play accordingly. But the EV Spread is just max attack, max speed. Max speed, Adamant Nature allows you to outspeed defensive Rotom and 2-hit KO it with Darkest Lariat, as well as outspeeding min speed defensive Landorus Therian Form and smacking them with a Flare Blitz for a 2-hit KO as well after Stealth Rock damage. The rest was put into Spadef, which gives you 217 Spadef, which means that download will raise opponent's attack instead of special attack. So a Porygon, for example, will not get the special attack boost, so its Tri-Attack does more. It will get the attack raise. However, Genesect will also get the attack raise as well. And U-Turn, of course, coming off at neutral, maybe that's not so good for you. But when you do have Intimidate, who cares? When you have Intimidate on the Mon, who cares? But basically the idea of this set is come in, hit hard, come in on Pokemon like Celesteela, where you resist Heavy Slam, where you resist Flamethrower, and just smack something with a Flare Blitz. 2-hit KOs, physically defensive Mandibuzz, and again, Darkest Lariat is your Dark Stab that you're just going to be able to spam. Doesn't care about your opponent's stat changes either. So a Pokemon like a Mudsdale at 60%, well, maybe not physically defensive Mudsdale, but a Mudsdale with a stamina boost, you can go for Darkest Lariat. You don't care about those defense boosts, knock it out. Of course, if it is like more of an offensive variant. But in any case, the Choice Band set just maximizes attack and hits hard with Flare Blitz, Darkest Lariat, and Earthquake. Really strong moves, and then U-turn for momentum. Now the Scarf set is jolly because that allows you to outspeed Pokemon such as Latios, Latias, Serperior, as well as Pokemon such as Thundurus. And speaking of Thundurus, Thundurus cannot go for Thunder Wave versus you because you are Dark type, and Prankster moves do not work on Dark types in this generation. So it has just enough speed. Unfortunately, it speed ties with like Scarf Magnezone. But it has just enough speed to be a decent Scarfer, again, being able to get rid of and check Pokemon such as Latios and Latias, getting rid of them with the Darkest Lariat, Flare Blitzing Superior, Flare Blitzing Thundurus, as well as U-turning on out of there. U-turn is very nice on a Scarfer for momentum because you do force switches. Unfortunately, it's just not enough speed to outspeed Pokemon such as Starmie, such as Greninja, such as Tornadus Therian. but it is decent enough speed to be able to work, because Incineroar again does force switches. You bring this thing out on a Scizor, they're going to switch out. You can go for U-turn, gain momentum. I would run Earthquake over Cross Chop, just because I don't want to miss, especially on a Scarf set where the Mon will probably die if I go ahead and miss. But Earthquake just allows you to damage Pokemon again, such as Toxapex, get rid of Pokemon such as Heatran, and just do decent damage. The fact that it's a fire type is actually really nice too, because it cannot be burnt. So the Choice Band set is like a counter to Pokemon such as physically defensive Mew, or even specially defensive Mew, where like Taunt, Will-O-Wisp, Psychic, it can't touch you at all. It can't Will-O-Wisp you. Knockoff isn't going to matter too much because your Darkest Lair doesn't really care. Psychic's not going to touch you because you're Dark Sab. But again, Choice Scarf, the idea of this set is take advantage of its okay speed, below average speed honestly, but just use it and maximize its power. I also want to say that on a band set, you can also run Brave Nature with 0 speed IVs on like a Trick Room sort of team, because a Pokemon with U-turn on Trick Room, always very nice. It abuses the speed. You can run like Life Orb as well over Choice Band on a Trick Room variant, which just runs Brave Nature. I'll show you right here, but it runs Brave Nature, and it would run 0 speed IVs, and that would hit 112, and then with that you can just mix it up with Flare Blitz, Darkest Lariat, U-turn, and whatnot. But I like Choice Band max speed because you're able to outspeed Pokemon such as defensive Rotom, such as defensive Heatran, such as defensive Landers, min speed, and you can 2-KO them with your attack. So Incineroar does have access to its own Z move, which is Malicious Moonsault. It's not a Moonsault though, but it is Malicious Moonsault with the Incendium Z, and it does have access to Swords Dance. So the next set we're going to be talking about is the Swords Dance set. Jolly max speed allows you to 100% outspeed defensive min speed invested Lando, because unfortunately with Adamant max speed, if Landers does run just a bit of speed, like it could run like 8 speed EVs, it does outspeed you. So on a Swords Dance set, why would you want something like that to be able to stop you from sweeping, or at least breaking through more defensive teams? So that's why you're going to run Jolly. It also allows you to outspeed Pokemon such as Adamant Bisharp, as well as like Modest Magnezone, Speed Heatran, Min Speed Heatran, Scizor, obviously, just a few Pokemon that you outspeed. But with a Swords Dance and Darkest Lair, Malicious Moonsault, I believe, is 180 ace power before stab, which is ridiculously strong. So Swords Dance boosted Malicious Moonsault breaks through. It doesn't matter if you resist. Flare Blitz is your strongest form of fire type move. It does have Fire Fang, but why use that? We're men of power. We are people or women of power. It's okay. Sorry if you're a woman. I didn't just assume gender, or you could be anything. I don't know what you are. Maybe you're a dog. Hello. Thank you for watching my video. But in any case, yeah, you can use whatever you want. I think Flare Blitz is just the strongest attack, obviously, the strongest fire type attack. And the last move can either be Earthquake or Cross Chop. However, on a Pokemon like this that's boosting its attack, I think Earthquake is better because it just hits Pokemon such as Toxapex, which is otherwise taking you on, though it will not appreciate a +2 Malicious Moonsault. That is going to hurt. That is going to hurt like hell. So, Swords Dance set, boost up and break through your opponent. And basically, slower teams that run Celesteela, Mandibuzz, they don't appreciate this. With Stealth Rock up, Mandibuzz is not taking +2 Flare Blitz. It's not going to appreciate it, and also I wouldn't run U-turn on the set because your Swords Dance boosting up. But yeah, again, the idea of the set is to use Incineroar as more of a sweeper than anything else. Now, Incineroar again does have access to Will-O-Wisp, and again, when it does, I know I just said again like 50 times, but when it does get Intimidate, I want to stress, run it. Even though right now it's currently not released, when it has Intimidate, run it, because Intimidate just makes this so much better. Will-O-Wisp is a move that Incineroar does have in its arsenal, and what we're going to be doing is running a Jolly leftover set with Will-O-Wisp. Again, we're Jolly because we want to 100% ensure that we outspeed Pokemon such as defensive Landers, and we can burn them. With Intimidate plus Burn, Earthquake is not going to be knocking you out. And the idea of this set is just to spread status, learn Pokemon such as Toxapex, such as Landers, such as a Powdon, burn them with Will-O-Wisp, you turn them out of there, and then maybe have like let's say an SD Mega Pinsir as a teammate, and with Landers being burnt and being whittled and worn down, with a Powdon being burnt, whittled, and worn down, it allows Pokemon like SD Mega Pinsir, maybe Dragon Dance Gyarados, to have an easier sweep. And your opponent can't be playing around and intimidate too much. But the idea of this set is to take advantage of the fact that Incineroar does have Will-O-Wisp as well as decent bulk. It is a Scizor check. You can burn Scizor, then Flare Blitz it the hell out of there. You can also just Flare Blitz it and just get rid of it in one hit. But yeah, I think that I would run U-Turn, Darkest Lariat, and Flare Blitz over Earthquake, because U-Turn still hits Pokemon such as Tyranitar for decent damage, and Darkest Lariat still hits Heatran for decent damage as well. Also, you'll be burning Tyranitar, so you don't really care too much about it. If it switches in, you burn it. So the idea of this set is just to use Incineroar as more of a lure than anything else. Next up, we have Bulk Up. I believe my boy, the Eon X, I believe he was the one who made this set. I think I saw it in a thread. And the idea of this, I'm not trying to take credit for any of these sets, guys. I'm trying to spread knowledge. So some of these I did make. Shout out to my boy PK. We made them together. And some of them, like this one, for example, I actually saw on a thread that my boy Eon X made. Because I don't think that knowledge, especially on this, should be at least owned in secret, if anything, because I'm trying to help people out. And also, I want to say that it's not very hard. Like, if anybody looked at a builder and looked at Incineroar's moveset, I'm sure anyone could have came up with this set right here. It's Choice Band. It's probably standard of what you would run on Incineroar. But, you know, the point of this is to put it together in a video and help people learn, or at least bring new light to a Pokemon that maybe you didn't know. But it does have access to Bulk Up as well in its arsenal, so you can use like a sub Bulk Up set with Darkest Lariat and Flare Blitz. Obviously, with Flare Blitz and sub, you're going to be losing HP, but it does have base 90 special defense as well as great base 95 HP. So enough speed to outspeed Pokemon such as Clefable, Minspeed Clefable before it Thunder Waves you, and you can just bulk up on that and smack out a Flare Blitz. But the idea of this set was to be used in the RU tier because Eon X believes that Incineroar will be an RU. I don't know where it'll be. It all depends on usage, obviously. But a bulk up set being able to set up on just the bulky grass types in the tier that will be in the tier anyway. Basically just taking advantage of its Spadef and just being able to sub bulk up and just making that sub be hard to break. I mean, it has 216 defense uninvested, so very it's a bulky mon, you know, not just naturally it has good defenses. So sub bulk up sweep. Maybe you can run Toxic Spike with this set and just run your dual stab. The other options, because it can run Assault Vest. Assault Vest is definitely a viable option on a mon that has U-turn and like this, and it will have good, decent, but definitely obviously it will be boosted up. Taunt is also an option on the Will-O-Wisp set. However, I feel like this is better than that. You can just forgo U-turn though and run like Taunt Wisp, Darkest Lariat, U-turn, or just Taunt U-turn, stopping setup, stopping recovery, stopping defog on Tapu Fini if you want to play around with that. Nasty Plot, it also does have that in its arsenal, and it does have good moves. Well, it does have moves to abuse it, such as Dark Pulse, Flamethrower, Focus Blast, respectively. So that can also be used. However, I didn't think it was solid enough to make a set on it, but I just wanted to mention that you can use that. Leech Life can also be used on like the Choice Band set or like the Bulk Up set. However, most of the time your stab is better. Bug doesn't really touch anything for super effective damage. I don't know why I said touch anything, but it doesn't really hit much for super effective damage really, although the recover is nice. Flare Blitz is already doing damage to grass types anyway. Darkest Lariat is doing damage to psychic types, but you can run Leech Life anyway. And Throat Chop is also an option over Darkest Lariat, though it is weaker. For 2 turns the opponent cannot use sound moves, so maybe like versus a Boom Burst Exploud, you can Throat Chop it and then it can't use Boom Burst versus you. But that's just the example I would think of anyway. But those are just the some of the many different ways that you can use Incineroar. It's a really cool Pokemon. You can use like Body Slam, try and paralyze your opponent, things like that. But it's a very solid Pokemon. I actually like it a lot. And obviously it was a starter that I picked. But I hope you guys all enjoyed, of course. Feel free to leave a like. You can go ahead and leave some, if you have any different sets, you can go ahead and leave them down below. Thank you everybody for watching. Feel free to follow me on Twitch as well as Twitter. I stream very often, and Twitter just to keep up to date with me. Thank you everybody, by the way, for 140,000 subscribers. That was actually my goal in the end of 2016. So as 2016 is ending, my goal was to hit 500 subscribers on Twitch and 140K on YouTube, and I managed to hit both of them, and I could not have done that without you guys. So thank you, and yeah, goodbye friends.